What's up, YouTube? I'm here to do my prediction video for UFC 248. Let's start the bomb. The first fight is Dana, I can't say his last name, versus Guido Canetti. And to me, these guys are pretty much the same. They're both striker wrestlers, but I just feel like Canetti's the much stronger wrestler. I think we saw it in Dana's debut that he has decent takedown defense, but if you can get him down, he's not that great. And I feel like even though Canetti is primarily a striker, we've seen if he needs to take fights to the ground, he's actually got a decent wrestling game. And I just see that happening over and over again. I think Canetti's going to be able to get to the ground when he needs to, and then just ride out the round from there and just win a 30-27 decision. Next is Giga, I can't say his last name, versus Jamal Emmers. And to me, I think Giga's the better striker overall, but that's about it. I think in terms of, conditioning, overall grappling, and especially wrestling, Jamal's got the advantage in all three. I feel like if Giga can keep this on the feet, he does have decent takedown defense, but I feel like his problem is he tends to get tired and he does move backwards a lot, and that tends to gas people out faster. To me, other than him catching Jamal with a big shot in the first round, I think Jamal walks him down, tires him out, and probably late second, early third, he's eventually going to get on top of him and win with a submission, either like an arm triangle or rear naked choke. Like I said, I just think he's got too much advantages in the overall grappling, like I said, wrestling especially, and conditioning, so I'm going with Jamal. Next is Emily Whitmire versus Poliana Viana, and to me, neither of these chicks are that impressive. I really feel like this fight could go either way. Sometimes Emily looks amazing, and sometimes she looks like trash. Poliana's kind of the same way. She's like 1-3 in the UFC. She's had, her win was a good win. Then her losses have been, some have been dominant, some have been close. I'm leaning slightly towards Poliana. I just like her more well-rounded game. They're both striker jiu-jitsu chicks, but I just think Poliana's a little bit better. But like I said, I could see this go either way. But I'm just leaning slightly towards Viana. I think she wins by submission. Next, we move on to the ESPN prelims. It's Gerald Meerschaert versus Darian Wynn. And I really like Gerald Meerschaert. I really hope he wins, but I just don't see it. I think in terms of speed and significantly overwhelming wrestling advantage for Wynn is just going to be the big factor. I think on the feet, Gerald's just too slow to catch him. And I think on the ground, even though Gerald's a really great grappler, I think Darian's just way too heavy on top. I don't think he's going to get caught in a random submission. Like, you never know. Gerald could pull off like a weird like side guillotine that I've seen really good jiu-jitsu guys get on the bottom sometimes. But other than something like that, like a really crazy like submission you almost never see, I just think Wynn is too heavy on top and too strong of a wrestler. I think that, like I said, he's too fast on the feet, and even though I really hope Gerald wins this fight, I just realistically don't see it happening. I think he gets taken down repeatedly, held down, and loses a 30-27 decision to Darian Ware. Next, we got Rolfando Vieira versus Sarbek Sarfanov. And to me, Sarfanov is pretty much just a striker with some wrestling. He's got an okay ground game. I think Vieira, if he gets us to the ground, which I think he will, is going to be a lopsided jiu-jitsu match. And that's what I think is going to happen. I think the first takedown Vieira gets, we're going to see him just, smother and destroy Sarfanov. And I really just see that's what's going to happen. Other than Sarfarov catching with a big shot right off the bat, I think Vieira takes us down, wins by submission in the first round. Next is Mark Madsen versus Austin Hubbard. And to me, Austin's an okay fighter. He's not an amazing fighter. I feel like he's good everywhere but not great anywhere. As where Mark is, one of the best wrestlers to ever compete in the UFC. I think he won like a bronze medal in the Olympics or something like that. Like, he's an amazing wrestler, and we saw that in his debut. He took the guy down and smashed him with ground and pound, like, immediately. I think he's like 11-0 or something like that. And I feel like, I don't think he'll finish Austin the same way. I think Austin's a little bit more well-rounded than the guy Mark fought in his debut. But I do see the same thing happening in the sense that I think Mark's going to hit the takedowns whenever he wants. He's going to be on top landing ground and pound, and I think he's going to win a 30-27 decision. Next, we got Sean O'Malley versus Jose Albert Quinones. And to me, I like Quinones a lot. I think he's a really solid striker, but the problem is that's about it. I feel like other than his striking, his ground game's just okay. And his biggest problem is he's not a very heavy hitter. It's mainly strong technique. I would say in terms of overall technique, these guys are about even. I think O'Malley has a little bit of a height and reach advantage. And the biggest issue for me is I think O'Malley has more punching power, and I also think he has a massive advantage on the ground. And, I really want to pick Quinones, but like I said, I don't see it happening. I feel like these two guys are too evenly matched on the feet, and usually when they're dead even, the guy with more punching power wins. Or vice versa, if it comes down to X factors, who's got the better ground game, and I definitely think O'Malley's got a big advantage there too. So I think O'Malley's going to you know, it's going to be competitive on the feet, and I think eventually he'll take it down and win by like rear naked choke or something like that. So I got O'Malley winning by sub. On the main card, the first fight is Alex Oliveira versus Max Griffin, and to me, this fight could really go either way. I feel like Oliveira is really going to be the big deciding factor. I feel like his biggest weakness is he overextends and gasses him out a little bit. He needs to just pace himself. I feel like, you know, he's another one of those Justin Gaethje-esque fighters where it's like he just needs to slow down just like this much, and I think he'd be way better than he is. I feel like Max Griffin, you know, he's the better wrestler, but I think in terms of striking and jiu-jitsu, Oliveira is way better. It's just a pacing thing with Oliveira. If he paces himself, I feel like he'll be able to knock out Max Griffin. I think he's the much better striker and the much heavier hitter. And I feel like as long as he isn't swinging wild or swinging too far out where he can get countered, he should be able to win by round 1 KO. Because to me, Max Griffin gets rocked in almost every fight. I know he's only been finished like one time, but I feel like a guy like Oliveira's striking and power, if he just slows it down a little bit, he should be able to knock him out. So I'm going with Oliveira. I hope he does fight smart in this fight, and I think he's going to win by round 1 KO. Next, we got Neil Magny versus Li Jingliang, and this is kind of the same thing where it's like, you know, Li's biggest issue was also kind of just over swinging, and he always had good conditioning, but he was kind of sloppy with his striking from time to time. I feel like he's kind of closed that gap in his game. I feel like his game is getting way more technical. You know, in terms of his overall wrestling, you know, he doesn't really find the ground that much because he's really good at stuffing takedowns and really good at getting back to his feet when he does getting taken down. Like I said, his conditioning's always been amazing. His boxing's always been amazing. It's just over swinging and over committing and kind of leaving his hands down. And he's pretty much closed up all those gaps. To me, Neil Magny's biggest issue is he's really hittable. I mean, he gets rocked in a lot of his fights. You know, his conditioning and grappling are not very in question. It's just his overall striking defense that I have a problem with. And I think that's what we're going to see in this fight. I think Li's going to time big shots and probably knock out Neil Magny. I think it's going to be like Neil Magny's last fight when he fought Ponzinibbio. I think as long as Li is patient, you know, I don't think Neil can take him down. And I think on the feet, Li's just the better striker. So I'm going with Li. I think he's going to win by probably 2nd or 3rd round KO. Next, we got Beneil Dariush versus Gerard Cross. And to me, this is all another pacing thing. It's like Beneil just needs to pace himself, and I think he can win this pretty easily. I think Jakar has the better overall wrestling and better conditioning. In terms of striking technique, I'd say it's about even, but Beneil, in my opinion, hits harder. And I think Beneil's biggest advantage is his position control on the ground with his jiu-jitsu. I think his overall wrestling when it comes to like the initial takedowns is better than Drakar's. And I feel like if Beneil can get Drakar down and hold him down, he can edge out rounds. And I think that's all he needs to do is just not overexert himself, be patient, and, you know, conserve his gas tank. And if he does that, I think he's going to win at least 2 of the 3 rounds. And that's what I'm leaning towards. I think Beneil is smart and, you know, doesn't waste energy. And when he gets him down, he picks position over submission and wins at least 2 of the 3 rounds. So I got Beneil winning by decision. Next fight is Weili Zhang versus Joanna Jędrzejczyk. And this fight is tough just because we've never really seen Zhang have a hard time either hitting someone or taking them down. I think she's going to have a hard time with both in this fight. I think other than her catching Joanna right off the bat, we're really going to see how good Weili Zhang really is in this fight. Because if she can't just continuously take Joanna down or continuously hit her, I really want to see how she looks. Because everyone she's fought, she's been able to just bully. And this is the first person I think she won't be able to just bully. And vice versa. For Joanna, she needs to be on her bike the whole time, which she can do. Like, we already know what Joanna's going to do. She can be on her bike the whole time. She's going to be stuffing takedowns. And it's kind of just how is Zhang going to be able to react to someone who's so good at what she does in Joanna. It's a really hard fight because I haven't seen Zhang get pushed like that yet. And just because of that, I'm leaning towards Joanna. We've seen Joanna fight, what was it? Jessica Andrade. And I know Zhang beat Andrade, but I feel like that's because Andrade was just going berserk and just getting hit with elbows and wasn't defending herself properly. I feel like Joanna's not going to do that. You know what I mean? She's not just going to go berserk at Zhang. Her style is way more movement-based. And like I said, I'm just leaning towards Joanna because I've already seen her fight a fighter like this and outclass her for 5 straight rounds. So I'm going with Joanna to win by decision. Finally, we got Israel Adesanya versus Yoel Romero. And this is kind of just a speed thing. Who's going to get that first, like, explosion counter? Because they both kind of like to counter. I feel like Yoel is more of like a forward movement counter fighter where he likes to wait for guys to throw and then he like explodes in on them. Israel likes to kind of back up, let the people swing, and then counter. So it's kind of like who can like lull the other guy in and then hit him with that big shot. I think that really whoever does that first is going to win. And it's such a toss-up because I think they both have massive speed. Like, they're probably the two fastest fighters in this division. I'm leaning towards Yoel solely because I feel like the X factor is the wrestling, and if he uses the wrestling, we're really going to see what happens if he gets on top of Adesanya. I know Adesanya is really good at getting back up to his feet, but to me, Yoel's gotten much better at taking guys down and holding them down. You know, if he can mix in throwing ground and pound with that, I think he'll be devastating. But really, I think it's going to be who lands that first big shot. And like I said, they're both kind of counter fighters. Yoel's more of like a forward-moving counter fighter, as Israel's like a backward-moving counter fighter. And yeah, like I said, I think it's a coin flip. Whoever's faster in that one moment is probably going to win the fight. And I'm just leaning towards Yoel to win by KO. It's probably going to happen in the first 2 rounds. And that's just what I see happening. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Please like and subscribe.